Hello, fellow technology enthusiasts, and thanks for joining me today. Technology projects are not always easy, but they should be straightforward. So my goal here is to help you simplify complexity and accelerate your technology projects to scale your business. So on each of these episodes, we teach you how to scale your business with technology and how to get your technology projects running on autopilot. There are three things you need to master with technology projects. One is getting clarity. The second is launching your project in the right way. And the third thing is the sustaining the delivery to make sure your project is set up for success. So if you master these three things, you'll exponentially scale your business and grow your career in the process. So how's that not for a double win? So each week, I'm going to deep dive on a specific topic. And this week, it's all about setting up your projects for success. And this was actually based on a question that came to me through DM from James T. So thank you, James, for your question. Let me just bring it up on the show here. So what I'm going to do now is just jump into that question. And I'm also just checking the comments and chat here for any other questions that come in. But in the meantime, let's jump to the question that came in from James T. So how do I make sure my projects are set up properly? So this is a common question because I often see people come to me with questions around why their project's failing, why it's going over scope, why it's going over budget, why is the technology so difficult to implement? And it really comes down to setting up your projects properly in the first place. So to that point is, how do you do that? Well, there's a number of factors, and it's not just about the setup. It's about how it's like building a house. It's not just about the windows. It's about everything from foundations to roof to the electrics and plumbing. So there's many components that make a good project, and that's where I always like to take it back to these 9 steps for a project success. It's my technology project accelerator. And you'll notice that number 6 there is launching the project. How do you set up your project for success? That's number 6. There are some things you need to do before that. But for today, to answer that question, what I'm going to do is let's deep dive on launching that project in the right way. So if you're going to do anything on your technology projects, just make sure you set them up using this framework, which I'm going to show to you in a second. So we're going to come back to these 9 steps over the course of these episodes, but in the meantime, let's jump into number 6. So to really get to the right point here. So we start with launching the project, and this is a project kickoff session. And I say project kickoff session, but you can actually do the kickoff at any point of the project. So this could be a good time to reset a project that's not going to plan. Or maybe you've had a big change in scope or organization, or maybe a sponsor's changed or the project manager's changed. It's always a good time to do a reset when there's a big event on the project, or maybe the team aren't gelling in the right way. Maybe there's some questions coming up. So doing this relaunch can happen at the beginning, but more importantly, can happen at any time through the project. And we'll also cover look backs later on as well. There's also a good time to do this at the end. So let's talk about this right at the beginning of the project. You have a great idea for the technology and what you want to do to improve your company and scale your business. So the first thing you do is do the kickoff. So you've got the charter, you have an idea of the scope, you have the schedule, you have the budget, you have the sponsor, and then you get everyone together to make sure they have a common understanding of the project. These kickoff sessions are a chance for everyone to meet, get aligned on the key details, and get buy-in to the critical milestones. So you must have a charter, at least a good charter defined. May not be signed off yet, and you must have a sponsor involved, to the point where I actually don't run these meetings unless my sponsor is attending. I've actually had to cancel previously. I've had to cancel a project kickoff because the sponsor couldn't attend and he couldn't send a delegate. So it's very, very important to have that sponsor in the room because they're going to set the tone for the project. Your technology team and the business team need to hear what the project sponsor has to say, because that's their vision for the change, the implementation, the new solution that's coming in place. What does it mean for the organization? So what are the 7 components of this kickoff meeting? The first is knowing the priority of the project. So this is really, really important because a lot of projects kick off and start and they think they're the most important project out there. And that's common because you're heads down. That's your number one focus for months or even years at a time. But remember that the priority of the project in terms of all the other projects in the company, that's important. So when you go into this session, you're saying, hey, our project is this important to the company. It's maybe number 5 on the list. Means it's very, very important, but there might be times when we have to make hard decisions about when this resources are spread across different projects. So knowing that priority in the organization is really, really important. The second thing is defining the goals and the OKRs, the objectives and key results. So this is making sure we're very, very clear on exactly what the project is going to achieve. So this is making sure we have the result, the outcome defined. So for example, if you're delivering a new website, the website itself isn't really a goal or an object or a key result. The website is actually going to enable something. And this is where the sponsor really comes in and helps, because they're saying by launching this website, we're going to either improve customer service, grow revenue for the company, reduce complaints, maybe speed up sales process. There's something this website is doing which is really, really important for the company. And that's what a goal, an objective, and a key result are. What is it going to mean? What changes? What outcome are you going to bring to the company by doing this? The important thing here is the key result. The key result is, how do we measure that success? How do we know we've achieved the result? So it might be the revenue, might be a revenue target of so many millions of dollars. It might be the reduction in customer complaints, or it might be the increase in sales based on the website functionality. Either way, you need to measure that result because then you know you've achieved it. The third point is the deliverables and scope. So now we've talked about the goals. We need to break it down into specific milestones and deliverables, and actually what is the project going to deliver. So delivering a new website might entail a number of things, including change to business process, might mean standing up a customer service team, might mean actually increasing the number of people on the sales team because you're going to get more sales. You might have to do performance testing on the website. There might be, then there's also the transition to the operations sustainment team as well. So you're breaking down those objectives into very specific deliverables and scope of what the project will do. More importantly, you're also defining what the project will not do. So maybe your scope is around the website, but maybe, and as a result, you're not improving any other websites. Maybe you have integrations to other systems or other technologies. Again, maybe not doing any changes outside. That might be a different team doing that. So be very clear on what you are doing as a project, but more importantly, what you're not doing as a project. And those decisions are key because when you come to manage scope and budget and time later on, you can always refer back to it. More importantly, if you have to make changes, this is your baseline. So then once you have the deliverables and scope, you then start to build out the schedule. Typically, you will have an idea of what the timelines are. Every project has a duration and you know when it needs to be delivered by. There might be a very specific deadline for some regulatory reasons or as a result of a business deadline that you need to achieve. The point here is you're starting to build out that schedule with the team in the room. And the sponsors also weighing in here as well, because they say, we need to have this project delivered by end of Q3, for example. And then the project team can say, okay, well, if that's the case, we need to have all the testing done by end of Q2 so we can make sure it's all the performance testing happens in the remainder of Q3 leading up to go live. So it's working this through the team because the people in the room doing the work will have really good insights on what goes into that schedule. So with that key schedule, you're also defining the key milestones. Then as a result of the milestones, you can measure progress along the way. Are you on track to achieve that goal and that object OKR that you've defined in step number 2? So then we move on to step number 3, which is what I call the success sliders. So these are not mini burgers, not those type of sliders. These are sliders that are rating the decisions on projects, the importance of various aspects of the projects. So I love this. This is a really, really good way to set the drivers, the success measures, and how we're going to deliver the project, but more importantly, it cuts through decision making. So let me just show you what they are. So here are the success sliders. You can have as many as you want, but typically I like to start with 3 to 5, and I've done 4 for an example here. And most of the time, you're always going to have budget, schedule, quality. Then you might have resources, you might have other factors. And you'll notice that these are on a scale left to right of flexible all the way to fixed. So for each of those success measures, budget, schedule, quality, and resources, you define whether they have to be achieved in terms of a success, or you have some flexibility to adjust along the way. So let me explain with an example. So here you put on these markers to decide, okay, how fixed is a driver, the success slider, or how flexible is that driver? So budget, for example, in this case, is somewhat fixed. We have perhaps some flexibility to maybe change the budget, but not a huge amount. Schedule is slightly lower down the scale. It's somewhat fixed, but there is some room for maneuver. And maybe later on, maybe we can adjust some milestones along the way. Quality and scope, however, that's very fixed in this example. So in this example, it would be around a regulatory project, or maybe there's a very specific website change that you need to put some legal terms and conditions on the website. So the quality and the deliverable of the legal requirements or regulatory changes, that's very specific scope. That's very specific outcome you need to achieve. And as a result, there might need some flexibility on the time or budget to achieve that very specific scope. And then you'll notice resources are slightly down the flexible scale. And just to be clear, this doesn't mean you have have different choices about which resources you use. This is more, how do you work with the team on this one? So with a project, you might be just developing the team in terms of, excuse me, learning the new technology. When the resources are slightly flexible, you might be relying on more on contractors or a third-party vendor to actually deliver the project. So that's where you have some flexibility to bring in temporary staff to help you deliver to the other success sliders more quickly. So you'll notice that you can actually plot a line between these markers, because a lot of this, in this example, a lot of this is around the fixed side of the chart as opposed to the flexible side. This actually makes the project slightly higher risk. So this is great because not only are you deciding what's going to drive the project, in this case it's scope, but you're also getting an idea of the risk. How risky is this project to deliver? And because a lot of it's in the fixed side, that does increase the risk of delivery. And then back to the sponsor to say, are we okay accepting this risk for the project? And this is where then there might be a negotiation to say, actually, maybe there's a bit more flexibility around budget, and maybe we take that slider down a bit. Maybe we increase the schedule to say, actually, no, we really do need to fix that deadline. So it increases the fixedness of that schedule. The beauty of this is once you've decided it in the kickoff meeting, you can then bring this out regularly, or at least I'd say monthly, with the team to say, this is how we're making decisions. So when we're working on the project delivery and going through scope questions around development or testing, we can go back to say, no, scope is one of our drivers. It's our fixed one. We have to deliver everything exactly as described. Whereas we do have some flexibility on schedule, so it might take a bit more time on the testing to make sure the quality is right. That might change as you're going through the project. And again, this is where going to a sponsor to say, right now we'd said quality was most important, but we need some more time to do this to make sure it's right. Are you good with that? Or do you prefer to actually say, no, we're not going to spend any more time on it? As a result, the quality slider starts to come down a bit more flexible. And here's the impact of doing that. Again, this is a great tool for reviewing change requests, managing scope, and facilitating decisions quickly, because you can put it very clearly on paper on one page and show exactly what it means to make those decisions. So just going back to the kickoff, that's where I love these success sliders. It's really, really important to have that as number 5 there as part of this kickoff meeting. So then we get into number 6, the teams and roles. And the reason I have this as number 6 is because you've set the scene around the goals, the deliverables, the schedule, success sliders. That's the context for the project. Now, given that information, do you have the right people on the team? You have to be very clear on who is needed to deliver the schedule, the deliverables, the goals, and the objectives and key results. But then you also have to have the right roles and responsibilities. What expertise do you need? But more importantly, make sure you have the right people, the right leadership team. And also create an organization chart. So showing the sponsor, the steering committee, the key lead roles. Let people know where they sit in that organization on the project. Gives clarity to people, gives people understanding of where they are, who to go to if they have questions, and how they're contributing to the launch of that project. And then I'm going to jump into that and what I feel are the 5 key leadership roles you need on a project just before we go into the 7th one. So right here, when you're delivering that leadership, delivering that roles and responsibilities, there are 5 key roles you need to have in a leadership team for a technology project. Starts, of course, with the project manager. You need to make sure you have that project manager on the project because they're going to be solely accountable for leading and working through that project. They have overall accountability for delivery. But then you also have the sponsor as well. Again, a second very important role, because that sponsor will ultimately make sure there's funding available. The project manager will escalate to the sponsor for any questions around getting resources or timelines. More importantly, the sponsor will also let the project team know through the project manager of any other projects that are going on. Maybe something's going to change in the organization around buying a business unit or buying another company or divesting another company. Going back to remember that prioritization of the project in relation to the company, that project sponsor is absolutely key in sharing with the project manager and the team around where this project sits in the importance to the overall company. The next in the 5-star list is the technical lead. So this could be a vendor or a systems integrator, but either way, there's a point lead responsibility for the technical delivery on a technology project. They look after the development, the testing, all the integrations, making sure the performance is good, might go into regression testing. Either way, they're making sure the technical aspects of the project are delivered, making sure it's functioning as planned. But the technical lead can only work in combination with a functional lead or business unit lead. So the business or functional lead is the person providing perspective on how is this going to work in the business? How's it going to work in real life? Back to that website example, does it look good? Does it work for customers? Does it appeal? Is it easy to use? Is it easy to navigate? We talked about testing with the technical lead. The functional lead actually looks after the user acceptance testing, the UAT. So they'll make sure that the functionality in terms of how it works in real life is what expected based on those goals and the objectives and key results that we defined in step number 2. And then lastly, the sustainment lead. So this is the person or the role or the team that's going to look after the technology you've delivered once the project finishes. So this is really, really important, and it's often forgotten on projects, is that we deliver a technology and then we don't include the people who are going to be looking after this technology going forward or the business process changes. As a result, the project finishes, but it causes problems later on, causes additional effort and churn for the operations team and the business going forward. So having this sustainment lead involved in the project as a role is absolutely vital. So those are the 5-star roles for leading a technology project team. Each one of those needs to make sure that you define their roles and responsibilities. So going back to this teams and roles on point number 5 here, we make sure that we actually define their responsibilities so everyone's clear on exactly what they're looking after and what they need to do, and more importantly, what they're accountable for. And then finally, for the project kickoff is the reporting and communication. So again, how are we going to make sure everyone's kept informed? So this would include status reporting. How often are we going to do status reports? Usually it's weekly. Maybe it's an agile project where it's more iterations, so you're going to update people on a Scrum on a daily basis. Will everyone have access to a Kanban board? Are you going to use a SharePoint site, or is it a Teams site? How are people going to get access to project information? How often are we going to have project town halls and project updates from the leadership team so everyone's aware of what's going on? Either way, you're being very clear on the reporting cadence, the frequency of meetings, who needs to attend these meetings, and how progress is measured. That's important. As we work through these multi-month and sometimes multi-year projects, is we need to share the updates. We need to keep people involved in the journey, because no one likes surprises. And the amount of projects I've been on where there's a lot of discussions at the leadership level, which is sometimes not always shared with the team below, and the team hears rumors. And when rumors happen, that's when questions happen, and that results in churn and drama. And that's the last thing you need on a technology project, because they can be complicated enough. So the last thing you want to do is add more drama to the mix. So those are the 7 key steps for making sure you kick off and launch a project in the right way. That's done at the beginning of a project. But like I said, you can always do this midway through a project. If you find that the project just needs a quick reset, just need a quick update with the team, just rework through each of these 7 steps. Review the goals, the schedule, the deliverables, team, success sliders, and the reporting with your team midway through. And even if it's at the beginning of the project, use this to get feedback from your project team as well. Have them give information and important update and important feedback on how to do this better. What have they seen on other projects which would work well for this particular project? So that was a quick walkthrough of how do I make sure my projects are set up properly and set up for success, because ultimately it's going to go through of the 9 steps is making sure we do that launch in the correct way. So that's the best way to simplify complexity and make sure your technology projects are straightforward when you set them up in the right way. So with that, I want to say that covered everything I wanted to today. I'm just going to quickly check the Q&A to make sure there's anything else come up. So 1 second, just go here. Okay, yep, there's a couple of other questions come in, and I think we're good there. Okay, awesome. So yeah, so that's how to set up projects properly in the right way and for success. And my call to action for you is to run the kickoff meeting with your projects. Even if you've got a project in progress, start this off now, do it now. If you haven't done it for a few months, get it going. If you're about to launch a project, then use these kickoff meetings to set up in the right way. Thanks for joining me today. And as always, you are a group of special enthusiasts, which I like to call the technology project enthusiasts. So thank you for joining me today. I'm here cheering you on through these technology projects. And if you have any questions at all, please reach out to me. In the meantime, continue to push, grow, scale as you make a difference with technology. And we'll see you in the next episode.